that is according to the Open Public Meeting Act?
Yes, it has, Mrs. Backus.
Roll call.
Mr. Balton.
Here.
Mr. Bishada.
Here.
Mr. Bruno Riccuya.
Here.
Mr. Syak.
Here.
Mrs. DePinto.
Here.
Mrs. Esposito.
Here.
Mr. McEnone.
I'm present.
Mrs. Pratt.
Here.
And Mrs. Backus.
Here. Presentation?
Mrs. Hall, would you like to come up? Explain a little bit about FBLA and what it is, why you're here. Thank you.
I've escaped this. Is this on? We're here tonight. I have my students here that won at nationals. Our students they compete in sometimes up to 55 different areas, and we wanted to show you just a little taste of what we experienced. These two boys started out at regionals, and they competed in other areas, and then another area opened up in digital design and promotion. And they were in Mr. Glock's class, who did a great job with these kids. And they competed at states and came in first in New Jersey. So they were chosen to represent New Jersey at nationals for this area. It's a brand new area. And they're going to give you a little bit of taste of what they did. I think it looks simpler than it actually is. And our students typically we start out with leadership conferences in the fall. We go to regional competitions. From there we go to state competitions, and those that are fortunate enough qualify for national conferences to compete. So, and we have about 100 members in our school. I'm going to turn the program over to them. Is that okay?
Good evening, my name is Arpit Sheth,
And I'm Javid Shah.
and we're pleased to present a quick summary of our accomplishments this summer.
We participated in the FBLA competition, Digital Design Promotion. At the state level, our task was to create a logo and tagline to represent FBLA's mission and goals. We were confident in ourselves because we were experienced in graphic design.
We went through a vigorous development process. Our first step was to conduct research on FBLA and then to fine-tune our design theory knowledge. So we started out with this simple hand-drawn sketch, and then from there we digitized it into our submission. We made sure to concentrate on rhetorical devices for our tagline, design principles, layout and structure, and typography for the aesthetic appeal of our logo. And with all our hard work, we placed first place at states. Javid and I were very proud of ourselves because this qualified us for national competitions in Orlando, Florida. And the two of us were prepared to take this to the next level.
At the national level, we kept the same logo, but we had to create a presentation to sell it to the judges. To illustrate how dynamic our logo was, we made digital mock-ups. Here we have a billboard which could be used for advertising. We also made business cards. This shows how simple our logo is, that it can be still recognized on a graphing calculator. And we also used it for the CD labeling and packaging that we used to submit our logo to states and also nationals. We also made tangible items used for merchandising. Here we have a bag with our logo on it. We also made t-shirts with pins.
So we performed our presentation for the first time at nationals, and we were excited about this. When we presented, we stood up late the first day and we got back the results that we placed for the final rounds. So the next day we re-performed our presentation to the panel of judges and in front of an audience. And after that we took a step back, we relaxed in Disney, kept us distracted from the award ceremony on Friday. And then we were sitting there at the award ceremony, our minds were racing, we were anxious, we were nervous to see the results. And then we hear our names being called for us to go up onto stage. Our jaws dropped. Here is us on stage.
Making their way on stage now are the winners in digital design and promotion. We'd like to thank Style Owner for sponsoring this event. In 7th place from New Jersey, Saravir War Memorial, Javed Shah and Arpit Sheth. In 6th place,
Wow, we placed 7th in the nation. All of that invested energy finally burst. It was one of the most amazing feelings that we had.
We obviously could not have done this without the help of various people.
We'd like to thank Ms. Hall, our advisor, for spending countless hours every step of the way on our journey.
We'd also like to thank Ms. Jakubik Tanchik and Ms. Scarperi for critiquing our presentation and helping us with the tagline.
We'd like to extend our gratitude to Ms. Corvino for making these magnificent t-shirts on extremely short notice. It really helped differentiate us between other competitors.
We would also like to thank Mr. Glock Malloy and Ms. Sandra Paul for their expertise in technology.
And where would we have gone without the help of the Saraville Board of Education? We are very grateful for being given this unforgettable opportunity to go out there and prove the limitless potential that we all possess. And to take that success and to bring it back to Saraville has been something that we have always dreamed about. So once again, thank you.
Gentlemen, that was excellent. You want to do some stuff for me? Because I can do a lot of graphic design, e-cards and stuff like that. But it truly is a very nice presentation too, very well done. Very professional, you guys look good, well dressed. Appreciate it.
That was one of the best student presentations I've seen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, guys. Thank you.
The approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from September 20?
So moved.
Second.
That's it.
Roll call.
Mr. Balcon.
Yes.
Mr. Bishara.
Yes.
Mrs. Bruno Rakuya.
Yes.
Mr. Syak.
Yes.
Mrs. DePinto.
Yes.
Mrs. Esposito.
Yes.
Mr. McEnroe.
Sure.
Mrs. Stratt.
Yes.
And Mrs. Back.
Yes. Student council report.
Okay, I'm going to try my best to follow up on that great presentation by Arpit and Javed. As you guys may or may not know, homecoming is approaching quickly. It's going to be on next Friday, October 14th. We just finished organizing and assigning the jobs and positions for each of the student council members to help run the activity. Pep rally is coming along. The t-shirt sales are going well. The shirts are still on sale for $12 each, and invitations for homecoming will go out sometime this week. And, and we also finished voting for homecoming king and queen, and we look forward to see the results.
Thank you, Tommy. Thank you. Tony, if you don't wish to stay for the whole meeting, you can leave, so I don't want you to feel obligated to stay.
Do homework.
Yeah. If it gets too long. There you go. Superintendent's report?
Before I do the superintendent's report, I just have a couple of things to announce. I want to thank everybody who just finished up our back-to-school nights. I think they were a resounding success. Again, I'd like to thank everybody, and now we're looking forward to the conferences, which are probably in about a month and a half. The second thing is Monday, there's no school for students, but there is staff development day for all the staff, and we'll be doing a lot of our PLCs and so on and so forth. So we'll be working on a lot of our staff development and different issues that we'll be dealing with throughout the year. At the next meeting, there will be an analysis of our test results for the New Jersey Ask and HESPA scores. Mr. Agles, which will be aided by Ms. Eichner, we'll do a detailed report on the different scores for all the schools and where we are as far as AYP and so on and so forth. Myself and a few other administrators are going to North Jersey this week, and we're going to a workshop on a virtual high school. So what we really like to do is to look at credit recovery, new courses, and looking at stuff that that we've been talking about as far as distance learning is concerned. That's a half-a-day workshop, and it's free. So subsequently, a lot of the schools are starting to go to this, especially for credit recovery, home instruction, those types of things. Once again, our initiative this year is on instruction, and we probably have done somewhere around 200 classroom walkthroughs under the guidance of Mr. Agles. He's probably done 100 himself, and really going into teams, into different classrooms, and basically they're between 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, and we just basically trying to get some information, and just it's basically a helping tool. And we really want to put most of our support and resources into our environment as far as the classroom is concerned. And we are really now also, Mr. Agles and Ms. Eichner are also looking at our results from a longitudinal study. We're going back 3 years, and we want to see how a particular child has done on New Jersey Ask, let's say for grade 3, 4, and 5, and we're putting that into a report and trying to analyze that data to determine whether or not he or she is making progress, and whether or not there are certain areas that we can really concentrate on to better our results on these tests. Because now you're getting to the last phase, which is just about 90, between high 80s and 90 to make A1P. So we really have to annually look at progress. So we really have to try to push up the bar, try to stay on top of the testing game, which is not very easy at this particular point. By 2014, and I think on the No Child Left Behind, we're probably going to revise it, but you know, under the old No Child Left Behind, we're supposed to get to 100% by the year 2014, that every child would pass at a proficiency level that the state would set. I don't think that any district probably in the United States is going to be 100% in every single child. So I think they're being more realistic, and we'll just have to wait and see about what the new guidelines are going to be, and they should be coming out shortly. I'm going to turn to the first section of my report, which is the Buildings and Grounds, which is the Violence and Vandalism Report, which must be stated and must be done this way. So Ms. Eichner will present the Violence and Vandalism Report.
Dr. Alfano, before you do that, the workshop that you're going to, is that affiliated with a school district up in North Jersey?
Yes.
What district, do you know?
Tenafly.
Okay, I just wondering if it was Pascack Valley.
They're all together. They're all Pascack Valley. They're all part of that consortium.
Okay. Under NCLB guidelines for Title IV funding, the board is requested to review the following annual district report of violence and vandalism for the 2010-2011 at this October public meeting. This report will be read at this meeting, and the public must be offered an opportunity to comment if they so desire. Section A, count of incidents by reporting category. Violence, 77. Vandalism, 15. Weapons, 8. Substance abuse, 13. And the unduplicated total is 110. Section B, cost of vandalism. Incidents involving costs to the district, 4. Section C, actions taken. Police notified with no complaint filed, 55. Police notified, complaint filed, 7. In-school suspension, 0. Out-of-school suspension, 156. Expulsions, unilateral removals, removal by ALJ, 0. Section D, offenders and victims. Student offenders, 134. Student victims, 47. School personnel victims, 3. Student victims of violent criminal offense, 1. Section E, program provided upon disciplinary action. Assignments, instruction, and/or support services, 132. In-school program, 0. In-district program, 0. Home assignment, home instruction, 133. Out-of-district program, 0. That is the completion of this year's annual report. Are there any questions at this time?
I have a question. How does this compare to other districts our size?
The other districts, those numbers are not out yet for the other districts at this point, so we can do a comparison at some later date.
Thank you. And what about hours from last year? I meant to ask you that.
In most categories, we're up from last year. However, last year we were down significantly from the year before. So this year, we're very close in numbers to 2 years ago.
Right, and I was wondering too if that is.
Right. The things that are reported and the way they're reported are different.
Right. It's
So,
stricter, I
right.
guess we'll say.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
All right, moving to something exciting, finance. Well, we are approving a bill list of $826,000 and change. Okay, the second is a nursing services that we contract out with the Middlesex Regional Educational Services Commission. Moving to page 5, it's approval of a disposal of a printer. I also would like to, on number 4, thank Mike Pohl for doing a very nice job. Every year, he and the South Amboy Sayreville Rotary Club donate dictionaries to grade 3, and I want to thank him for that. They do about 450 or so, and they donate them every single year. And they did it again this year, which is very nice. Number 5 is a competitive consortium that we're involved in, again with the Middlesex Regional Education Commission, which is very lucrative. And number 6 is the same thing, it's cooperative pricing on all types of different products, and we get some very good prices from them. 7 is to approve a contract of a Bank of America lease purchase for our computer equipment and buses at an interest rate of 1.7, which is a fantastic rate. Also, the South Amboy Board of Education is sending 2 students within our BD class at a tuition of $22,000 plus. The Carabino Architects are doing our middle school roof replacement for the cost of $45. I believe it was $70 in your first packet. It's been changed. Video did some great negotiating overnight. It went from $70 to $45. Moving right along, nursing services is number 10. And number 11 is, and again, this is an addition from the original one that you guys got on Friday. This is the Sayreville Supervisors Association 3-year contract, which runs from 2011 to 2014. Any questions with Vic?
Dr. Alfano, Mr. D'Andrea, on the Rubino di Caria, this is for the specs on the roof. This has, I thought when they did the solar, what was that, just a schematic of what we needed as far as roofs were concerned?
If you go back to the original proposal, when we brought them on, they agreed to defer part of their cost. So you're picking up part of that cost, $147,000. 15% of that deferral is in there. Their construction management, actually preparing the bid specs and all of what come up to the $45,000. So it's a component of 4 or 5 different items.
Okay, the other thing is I have to abstain on check number 120894.
I also need to abstain the check for Premier Printing.
Moving right along, section C, personnel, non-certified. First is an unpaid medical leave, custodial transfers, paraprofessionals as job coaches. Number 4 is the approving employment of a cafeteria aide. 5 are additional substitutes. 6 is to approve an individual as one of the students, as the student paraprofessional in the Project Before class, which I think is a wonderful thing to do. We used to, where I came, up in North Jersey, they ran an entire program like that, which really was very successful. So I hope we can, expand that program a little bit more. Which I think it's a great opportunity for both the children as well as the student. Any questions with section B?
Dr. Alfano, on number 6, is that part of the DECA program, the co-op program, or not?
That's Ms. Duffy. Is that a little bit of both?
Yeah, and it's also an outgrowth of the child development class.
Okay.
It's offered here at the high school, so a practical application of that.
Got it. Very good.
And we have wonderful students that are working in the board office this year. It's really working out well. So they're really helping out. And it's a lot of fun for them to be there. And I think they're enjoying it as much as we are. Anyway, moving to section D, personnel certified. I would like to wish Ms. Stratton the best retirement possible. And I know she's done an absolutely fantastic job, 30+ years of service. So I want to wish her. We're extending a child rearing leave for a few months, moving an unpaid medical leave, a salary adjustment, middle school and suspension monitor being approved, and an unpaid advisor for the middle school Odyssey of the Mind team, a contractual retirement, Saturday detention monitor, no child left behind Title IIA 12-month fiscal year 12 stipend positions, and there are 3 of them there, and they do a ton of work with this mentorship program. They earn every single nickel of it, and I want to thank all 3 of those people. They really do a wonderful job. It's not a very easy thing to do, and it's a year-long process. So moving along to number 10, rescind a few coaching appointments. Number 11 is some unpaid coaches. Some professional days, and that runs from 11, 12, and 13. A transition coordinator fee, hourly fee. Number 14 is another ad from your Friday packet, and there's a change to that. That's for the 2011-12 school year. I don't know whether we got 08 or 09, but we seem to be stuck on 08 or 09. I don't know when. But 11, 12, these are the new salaries for those individuals. Number 14 is an additional substitute list. 15 is nurses substitute list. Any questions with D, section D?
Dr. Alfano, I'd just like to thank the Cerebral Supervisors Association for a very professional and productive negotiation session over the past year. It was not going to go so far as to say it was a pleasure, but certainly very professional, and I'm very appreciative of it. Thank you.
Who was on your committee, Mr. Sayed?
Mr. McEnroe, Mrs. Strapp, and myself.
I want to thank you guys. It's not easy negotiating. Good job. Moving right along, policy, no report. Curriculum are the services for special education students. A new kindergarten student, 2 and 3 are new. There's a new kindergarten student that by law we have to put into the report. And there also is a request for the Board of Education request to accept the harassment, intimidation, and bullying reports and findings for reports numbers 1-2011 and 12 through number 20-2011-12 as per policy 5131.1. Any questions with that section? With none, moving to G. Good luck for the fundraiser for the boys basketball, November 5th and 6th. And they're running a nice fundraiser for those Saturday and Sunday. Reach the Beach cheerleading. They're going to Ocean City. Good luck, February 24th to the 26th at their own cost. War Memorial High School to host the State Odyssey of the Mind competition on March 24th from 7 to 9. There's a tremendous amount of work that goes into that. I know every time I go into that competition, I'm sort of in awe of what goes on, because I could never figure out a lot of the stuff, but it's really fascinating. Kids really put a lot of time in it, and I'm very impressed by what they do and the amount of dedication and time, as well as the coaches. So I want to thank them personally. And it is a huge undertaking. The entire building is huge. I mean, you can't move. You can't get into the parking lot.
Dr. Alfano, who's coordinating that effort here, do you know?
I believe it's the
Jason Brown?
Jason Brown,
Jason
I
Brown.
believe it is.
What?
It's the advisor of the Odyssey of the Mind usually does it, and they come in and they coordinate with the state people. But they do a fantastic job. It's very well organized.
I would encourage the board to come to the
really
competition,
good.
stop by during the day, see some of the students compete, and then stop by for the award ceremony. It's an interesting experience.
It's something that I've never seen before. Like, I went
Yeah.
to a lot of competitions, whether they be academic or obviously athletic. This is more in the creative side, and you really have to kind of sit down and try to figure out some of the stuff that you're doing, but they really spend a ton of time on it. And I know they just don't do this overnight. This is something that takes months for them to put together. So, good luck. New club, the Garage Band Club, not sure what that is. Fishing Club, the Red Cross Club is running their annual blood drives on November 14th and March 19th. Hopefully people can make it. Boot camp, I'm not going to that one. Number 8 is 20 students are going to the Veterans Nursing Home, which is a nice gesture. Wilson School is doing their chorus concert on May 30th, a little bit early, but let's not push the year, but they're doing it on May 30th. College Career Fair is October 26th. Any questions with that section?
I have a question.
Sure.
For number 7, when is the event, the boot camp fundraiser?
It's run, it's 3 to 4 days per week, so I guess he's going to start immediately. The kids
So
are
it
going to
goes
work
on
out.
for a period of
Yeah,
time.
they're going to work out.
And for number 8, who is going to the Veterans Home? What group is that? It just says 20 students from high school. Is it a club or?
I think it's just a random 20 people. I would think maybe student, I know we used to go as student council, but it's not student council. I don't know if anybody's here from the high school. I can ask that question, but I'm almost certain it's one of the clubs like the student council, because we usually go to student council, but I can find that out.
Just curious.
Okay. So much. H, some transportation waivers, transportation routes, 11 field trips, and number 7 is the school bus emergency evacuation drills, which are by law, we need to do them by the end of the month, which you can see we did in every single school. That concludes my report.
Are there any other questions on the board report from the board? If not, I'll open it up to the public for questions on the superintendent's agenda report only. Are there any questions from the public? Okay. Being none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the superintendent's report.
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Mr. Boucher?
Yes.
Mr. Bishara?
Yes, note at the exception.
Mrs. Bruno Riccuya?
Yes.
Mr. Sire?
Yes, with the abstention noted.
Mrs. DePinto?
Yes.
Mrs. Esposito?
Yes.
Mr. McEnroe?
Yes.
Mrs. Kraft?
Yes.
And Mrs. Beck?
Yes. Delegate to the New Jersey School Boards Association, Mr. Sire?
There is a meeting tomorrow of the Middlesex County School Boards Association in North Brunswick. I sent an email out to the board. The legislators from the surrounding area districts in Middlesex County will be there. If you have signed up, I encourage you to attend. If you haven't signed up and you can make it, attend anyway, because we are looking to have a strong showing for our legislators. It starts at 7 p.m. tomorrow. As Dr. Alfano was mentioning, we are looking, and if I gave this report at the last meeting, I apologize. I have given it several times to different groups. But we have received some relief from Washington with regard to No Child Left Behind. It looks like there will be some flexibility granted to states, providing that states basically show a plan for continued improvement for education. And from the articles and information I've received, it looks like New Jersey is one of the states that is very interested in doing that. So coming down the pike, we should be seeing some changes with regard to No Child Left Behind. The upcoming Delegates Assembly for New Jersey School Boards is coming up. There is one resolution that will be on the agenda. I haven't received the background on it yet, but I can tell you in brief synopsis that the intent of the resolution is to provide policy language for New Jersey school boards that basically would, I guess, give some leniency with regard to criminal background checks in the event the offense occurred within a certain number of years prior to the individual taking office, with the intent being that if you did something at the age of 19 or 20 and you're now 50 years old and serving on a board of education, that you would not be disqualified. I haven't seen the background to know what types of offenses would be included, excluded, etc., to know if it's something that Cerebral would want to support yet. But as soon as I get the background, I will share it with the board, and we can make a decision at our next meeting how I should vote at that meeting.
I just have a quick question. We used to do board evaluations here, and I had thought they were required yearly, and we haven't done one in a while. Did that change, or?
No, they're still required under CUSAC, and I
It
believe
is-
CUSAC has not been, that provision has not been altered.
So can you coordinate the
Yeah.
next evaluation?
We can certainly do that.
So I don't recall when the last one was that we did.
It was right before CUSAC.
Okay.
Do we want to do it towards the end of the life of this board?
Well,
that-
is there a date requirement? Do we have a deadline?
It should be done by the sitting board, so sometime before the April election.
But I don't remember doing it right before April. This
No, we
year.
did not do it the
Okay.
last year.
Okay,
And we should have, but we did
we
not.
should have. Okay.
Yes.
Whatever time frame, it doesn't matter, whatever, as long as we get it done
Okay.
before. Is there anybody for committee reports that has anything they wish to report?
Just, there is a curriculum committee meeting on October 12th at 5 p.m. 5:30. That's right. At Slovis. Yes.
If anybody has any curriculum issues, please forward them to Mr. Mike Gamacino for the agenda.
Sableville K12.NewJersey.
And we have a PIC meeting coming up on October 17th, which is Monday at Slover, from 6:30. So all parents are welcome to come and get involved. Thank you.
Okay, there's nothing listed for board discussion. Is there anybody who has anything for discussion?
Just an update to the board. A few meetings ago, I'd asked the board if I could contact the American Legion regarding the American Legion Jersey Boys and Girls State Program. I've been in contact with Pat Hampson, who is the chairperson of the Ladies Auxiliary, and Rich Kosmuski, who is going to be the chairperson of the American Legion Jersey Boys State Program. And both groups are excited about it and do want to proceed. The American Legion will be sponsoring up to five boys, and the Ladies Auxiliary will be sponsoring one girl and one alternate. So I forwarded the information to Dr. Alfano, and Mr. Gentile will be working with the history classes to identify prospective candidates.
Anybody have anything else? Okay. Then I will open it up to the public for any and all comments on any topic. Does anybody from the public wish to speak?
Good evening. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Mike Novak. I'm the head varsity baseball coach as well as a Cerebral resident. And I just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak. Last board meeting, I wasn't here, but I know the topic was discussed about the baseball field and the conditions to improve them and to devote some money into renovating them. And I understand that the board's in it, and it is a terrible, difficult decision to devote that kind of money into an athletic field. And with what's going on in Trenton, the 2% property tax cap, I know everything that's going on. And I'm on both sides of the fence here. I'm the head coach of this program, and I'm also a father of three. My oldest is a first grader at Eisenhower School. And 2 weeks ago, I went to back to school night, walk into the classroom, I see a smart board, and that's great, and I'm very happy that the money is being well spent in this district. But I think a decision was made last week and a vote was placed, and I've only talked to probably 2 board members about this topic. So I think that it was important for me to tell my side of the story because no one knows that baseball field better than I do. I've been coaching here for 14 years in this baseball program, and I've spent more hours on a field than anybody, and I've seen the issues, the problems, and I know what's been done to it. I know what money's been put into it, what these companies have done, what our maintenance companies have done, and what they haven't done, and why the field is what it is. So I just wanted to go over a couple things. First of all, in the 14 years that I've been here, there hasn't been any improvement to the grass infield that's out there right now. When I got here in 1998, the field, I believe 3 or 4 years prior to that, the infield was replaced. When I arrived, the field was in terrible condition, and it was only 3 years later. It was never watered, it was never maintained, and when I got here as a freshman coach, the field was the worst playing surface in the county, bar none, and I'm not exaggerating. About 4 or 5 years later, I had the opportunity to sit down with Mr. DeAndrea, Dr. Alfano, Mr. McEnone, who was the board president, and we addressed all the fields. The JV field was in very bad shape, the softball field was, and we came to the agreement, and the board allowed us to get Kaiser Landscape to come in and renovate them. But the problem was, with the cost of all 3 fields, the grass portion of the field was never addressed. And the dirt that was added to the field never really addressed the problem. The consistency of the dirt, it's never changed, and it's still a problem to this day. Now, they do a great job every year, and I'm very fortunate, we're very fortunate as a baseball program to have them come in. What they do every year, if you don't know, they edge the infield, they remove all the lips. A lip on the field is when dirt gets into the grass and it makes a high lip, so when you field a ground ball, it can shoot off like a ramp, and they eliminate that, so it makes it safer. They add some dirt where needed. They rebuilt the mound about 5 years ago, and they do a real nice job in the preseason. And our maintenance crew, Barry, Bobby, and Dougie, do a fantastic job. This is no indictment on them. They work their tails off every year, and they do a great job getting the field playable. The problem is there are areas that need to be addressed, and the one is that grass. The grass is nothing but crabgrass right now, and it hasn't been watered on a consistent basis over the last 14 years. I've seen it watered probably 10 to 15 times in the 14 years I've been here. The sprinklers used to work years ago, but they weren't used regularly, and then they broke, and they were never repaired. Then we made the purchase of the water cannon. I'm not sure if everybody knows what that water cannon is, but it was a good idea at the time because we figured instead of spending the money for the sprinklers, we'd use this water cannon. But when maintenance would set this up, take it down, it was a long process. It would take probably an hour to get it set up, an hour to break it down. It couldn't be left out, and it isn't working the way they originally planned. So watering, and you know, if you don't water grass, it's not going to grow. It just isn't. So it's not going to grow. It's nothing but crabgrass. I can't, and they'll tell you, when we practice, I barely hit ground balls. I barely practice infield on our infield. When we practice infield, we most of the time go up to the turf because I don't want them to develop bad habits or to get unnecessary balls off their faces or shoulders and get hurt. We do practice on it from time to time, but I try not to rep out infield practice on that field because it's in that bad a shape. The dirt itself is another major issue. If you run down the first baseline during a game, by the end of the game, it's like running in a beach. Our kids, when they run the first base, a lot of times have to run onto the grass so they can get to first base quicker. All right, and when they take their leads off of first base, Matt Rivera, who's here, he's our best base stealer right there. And when he tries to get his secondary lead or take a lead, he's kicking sand out of the way so he can get good footing, so he can steal second base. It doesn't happen on other fields. At the end of the game, our middle infielders have to go to second base and shovel dirt and sand into a hole that's usually this deep by the end of the game. Shortstop area, the hops come all over the place, and if you go on YouTube and you Google and you type in Christian Campbell bad hop, you'll see it for yourself. Joe DeRold caught a clip last year against Colonia where he got hit in the face. And just to compare it to other fields that we play on, right now we've gotten some improvements, and Kaiser does a nice job, but it's still that grass infield, and the dirt is the poorest playing surface that we play on out of any of the teams that we compete against. So that's how it compares to other fields. Now, last week I had an opportunity to sit down with Mr. DeAndrea and Mr. Kowatanich and discuss what I believe needs to be done in the field. We had a great conversation, and we wrote down some things that we want to have put into next year's budget. And I'm very happy with that. The problem is, you know it and I know it, that this budget doesn't get passed every year. Last year it was passed for the first time in a long time. And 6 years? So, and when it doesn't get passed, what gets cut? Improvements to fields. We know, Mr. Kowatanich told me many times, he put those bleachers in the budget every single year, new bleachers for the football field. When did we get new bleachers? When a kid fell through at the East Brunswick football game in 2009. That's when new bleachers were put in. So I'm worried that if this is put in next year's budget, that this will be the first thing cut when it doesn't pass. You know, so that makes me nervous. So I'm just taking this opportunity. If anybody has any questions specifically for me as the head coach, I'd love to answer them, and I'd love to sit down with any of you and talk about it. But I feel strongly that this is something that needs to be done because it's been a long time coming. And The Little League field down the road has been, that infield, all 3 of those diamonds have been replaced 2 times in the last 14 years. And if you drive by any morning, in the summer and in the spring, you'll see the sprinklers on. So that's why those fields look like they do, and that's why this field looks like it does right now. And I want to reiterate again, it's not an attack on our grounds crew because they do a great job. All right, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak, and I welcome the opportunity to talk. Question?
Question. I have a question.
Yes.
You said you spoke last week about improvements you wanted to the field.
Yes.
Are those improvements the proposal, what's on the proposal that
Yes,
the board
and we
received?
went through item by item, and certain items we declared that we didn't need it, weren't necessary. Like when you go to the section about the dirt, there's 3 choices about the types of dirt. One was about Duraclay mix, that was very expensive. There was a second grade that was Field Saver, and then there was like a diamond. There was 3 different levels, and we talked about each different level. And I spoke to Kaiser about it, and I'm familiar with the different types of dirt that's used and what would be sufficient for our field. And that top price is we don't need. That I mean, I think we saved $19,000 with the dirt alone just going to the second option when we talk numbers. So.
What was the total cost of the proposal that you guys had agreed on after your meeting?
I believe it was approximately 45.
It was the same thing that the board saw. We just actually sat and said, this type of dirt, these sprinklers. So yes, I believe it was around
With the sprinkler
45
system,
to
the
50,000.
sod,
Yeah.
the Field Saver dirt mix came out to about 45,000 or something like that.
For the one field?
For the
One
varsity baseball
For
field.
just
yes.
north?
Oh, so that doesn't include the softball field?
No,
That would be up.
we spoke, and Mr. Lucia was also at that meeting talking about the soil.
Yeah. The baseball field was much more expensive because of the sod, of course. The softball
Sod.
field is a dirt infield, so it is significantly cheaper than that because of the
Now,
sod.
is that the whole area back there, or
Just the infield
Just
area.
the baseball area?
Yes, the infield, not the outfield.
Lydia, you just mentioned that we saved money on a roof. Can you possibly transfer that, or we're not allowed to do that?
Well, we didn't
I heard you
really
say-
save money on the roof.
You said it
It's
came in
just
much lower.
That roof wasn't really budgeted, so.
I thought you said it came in 78, or
It
it
was,
came in at 30.
he asked for 70, I got him down to 45. We really, I don't like to say we saved money, we didn't spend money.
But were we prepared to spend the 17,000?
No, I wasn't. It's not budgeted, so no.
Is there someone that we can find money for this, or it seems...
Well, before we talk about money, let's just see, does anybody else have any other questions about the field?
Coach, you got a great program, and I know we talked in the future. I think it was Dr. Fennell and I, when we wait for prom buses to leave, when Tommy actually walked on the field.
Sure.
I think you were there too.
Yep.
And I've been very vocal about when we put that artificial turf field in, and I had said several times that, we're spending $1+ million to play football, field hockey, and soccer. We need to make sure that we're equitable with all our other sports programs.
Yes.
Because, parents of baseball players, I believe, spend the same amount of taxes as parents of football players. I know there's been some issues. I remember Fran O'Connor being very tenacious. We got that fence.
Sure.
I mean, we've been sensitive to those types of things. My question for you is, the only solution I see is the sprinkler system, is what I think we're talking about. Because I know we did the water cannon.
cannon just, I mean, I don't know personally, but I know it takes, I talked to those guys and it takes an awful long time to set up and to break down. And those guys, there's 3 guys for the whole district for the grounds, and they have a million other jobs they do during the day. So to devote that kind of time to pull that machine out every single day and then to put it on the softball field, it's a lot of work, I believe.
We found sprinkler heads on the baseball field, didn't we?
There is a sprinkler system underneath.
Okay.
It's broken one year in the winter, it was never blown out properly, and in the winter when it's not blown out, the pipes crack. And that's
In your
exactly
time here, has there ever been an active sprinkler system on that field?
active, it worked,
Well,
it
what
was
is now?
used, yeah, I've seen it work, I've seen the sprinkler system on 2 or 3 times,
Years ago.
years.
And
This
what-
was between 98 and 2002 probably.
And what about the softball field?
Mr. Lucia was also there. This was really more of a discussion for next year's budget and preparing for next year. So she also discussed her needs and our concerns with us.
What was that kind of cost?
Theirs
The
was
baseball was
fraction.
45.
If I remember correctly, theirs was only around 20,
20?
if I recollect correctly.
For softball, what about did that include the JV baseball
No,
field too?
again, as we spoke last time, Kaiser believes that whatever he would take up from the varsity baseball field, varsity softball field can be used to make the repairs necessary to the JV field.
So 45 for baseball, say 20 for softball, and then the labor for the JV fields.
Yes.
But what are we doing now to keep the kids safe when they play, like so that they don't get injured? because we've already had a
Again,
couple injuries?
I'm not here to contradict Mr. Novak. I've never been made aware of a safety issue or a game being canceled because an umpire felt the field were unsafe. That's all I can report. That's all I know. So I've never been told there's been a safety issue because the game, in my mind, should have been canceled if there are safety issues.
I know we talked about last meeting, that you weren't here. I guess the word got out that we were talking about it. Is that our current budget is a living, breathing document, and come January timeframe, I think we were in agreement that we would take another look at the current year budget and see if there's anything we can do. I know we're not playing base. When's your season start?
March. Our practices start in March. Season starts in April.
Season starts in April.
So if anything was to be done, what would be the board's deadline?
Well, if you lay new grass, the question would be, can you lay new grass prior to the season and have it playable for April? I don't know. I'm not a landscaper. I don't know if grass can set that quick and be playable and not get chewed up during our season. I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah, of course.
This I think
If there's snow on the ground.
this sitting board is very interested and very proactive in facility upgrades.
Absolutely.
And if we budget it, it's this board that determines what gets cut out of the budget if it fails, not the council, it's this board. So, and then we talk about that.
The other question I have, and I brought this up at the last meeting, if we're gonna do this, we definitely need the field sprinkler. Because like you said, I know the
It's
water
been maintained.
can.
You can't, like last time it was done, it went to, went right away. Within a year or two, it was back to.
Aside from the sprinkler piece, let's say we do this next year. Do we have the ongoing resources to maintain those fields so that 3 boards from now, we're not sitting having the same discussion because we've got crabgrass because the sprinklers weren't turned on or the lines weren't blown out? Do we have the resources for the ongoing maintenance?
If we're going to do, what I would recommend is that you definitely make sure you bring in a company that, just like your homes, if you like a pristine looking lawn, you bring in lawn doctor or someone of that nature to do the chemical treatments. Our men are not qualified or do not have certification in those areas, so you would have to bring someone in of that nature. You sprinkle it, you make sure you do your fertilizing on a yearly basis, your crabgrass, all those things that you would do to have a pristine lawn at home. You would have to put those things in place here also. What that cost is, I don't know. I've never looked into it. But again, if you're going to go lay new sod, you have to make the follow-up investment to make sure that you put someone in place to do those kind of treatments so that it maintains it. And again, obviously, make sure that you blow out your sprinklers on a yearly basis, that they're not left, there's no water left in those things. So, yes, do we have the capabilities with 3 people? We have the capability. Do we have the expertise? No. So yeah, there may be some other outside individuals that need to come in, and I can rest assured that you're probably still going to need Kaiser to come in on a yearly basis to cut the lip and all that, because dirt's still going to find its way under the grass. You have to have a good maintenance program in place to make sure it's.
May I make a suggestion? Because I know we're going to go back. I think I'm concerned. I coached baseball for 10 years too. My concern would be is we started to work, and I know that's going to be your concern. If you start laying sod down in March, the chances of you blowing your season could be very strong. So I think if the board would allow us is to discuss this more with Mike and Krista DeLucia and try to get more information, and then get some solid numbers, really find out, and like you're saying, how are we going to maintain this field? I've never been on a field. Look, I've come from come from Hudson County, where we played on concrete. Half the field was concrete. So, to play on a pristine field is awesome, and it may be something that you could probably you really got to think about this. I think you would agree with me.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't want to just jump into this. I mean, look, Yankee Stadium. How many guys are working on their infield? You got 25 people working on the infield every single day. So I agree with Emilio. If we're going to do something, we got to make sure that we maintain it and we sprinkle it. And I agree with Mike that we spent a lot of money on the football field and the stadium field, and I have no problem doing that. But I want to do this right, because like we're saying, and Mike said, 2 years from now, it's going to be crabgrass again if we don't do it right. And we just have to make sure that maybe what we have now, we have to make sure that maybe we can maintain it a little bit better and try to fill in those those divots or whatever, and see what we can do. I'm just concerned about, I don't want to see you lose the season. You know, I don't want to see it, that's happened. I know somebody told me, you know, back when I was coaching varsity baseball, oh, no problem, you know, we'll lay the sod down in February, and you'll be able to play in April. Well, we didn't play our first game home till literally the second week in May. And there's a host of things, and you know, right now, maybe there's other options too that we can take a look at. I don't, you know, I would rather just the board just allow us a little bit more time and send you some information as we get it, because right now, we don't want to let anybody down here. This is not our goal. Our goal is to try to make it, you know, the field as playable as possible, and I would love to make it like the old Shea Stadium. Maybe we can go and get some of that stuff. But I know, you know, I mean, we played on all kinds of fields, and certainly we try to make it as good as possible. And I know you do a very good job. I know it's not an easy thing coaching baseball. It's cold. It's not the best part of the year. Matter of fact, you'd be playing now. If you're playing in the fall, that's the best time to play. So.
So are you saying that it couldn't be done for this year?
I think we have to do more research. I would be very skeptical, not from the perspective of money. I just don't want to see the guy lose a month of his season. He could lose 7, 8 home games if we're not careful. Because remember, every company's going to say, no problem, we can do it. You know, because they're out, they're going to make $45,000, $50,000 to do this. And then all of a sudden, you know, you don't have, the guy that used to do the grounds for us was a guy named Giuseppe. That's all he did. That's all he did all day long was work on the field. And unfortunately, we did. We lost most of our home games that year.
But could you put something in a contract that would have to be done by a certain date?
You could, but then what do? What's the liquidated damages? The kids don't play.
We did that with the high school building.
Right, and I mean, I think we have to research this more.
But we have to put sod down at one point. We put it
No,
down.
I agree, but the sod, you can't put it down in January.
No, if we're gonna sod, we have to make a decision whether we're gonna do it
And
now or
unfortunately,
next year.
sod, this is probably the best time to
Right.
do sod.
That's what I'm saying.
October, because
I
there's no
think
one
the
playing
issue
on
is,
it, the roots take.
At the
and
last
then come
meeting, we
April,
didn't
they
have a
regenerate.
formal vote.
Sure.
We just took a straw poll on whether we wanted to pursue this for the this current year budget, the 2011 budget, or did we want to push it into next year's budget? I think it was more of a financial decision by the board on what year they wanted to do it, not whether we wanted to do it at all. And based on the straw poll, the majority wanted to put it off into next year's budget. So more research isn't really going to help us if that's the board's decision to put it off to next year. So if we keep researching what we want to do. So the only issue here was, I don't think anybody was objectionable to doing it in general. Is that correct? I mean, I think the issue was more what year we were willing to do it. So, and I think that all came into money. So unless anybody wants to change their position from last week, then we have time to research it, because as of last week's straw poll,
Can
the
we
board
poll
pushed
it
it
again?
Well, I have a
Poll
question
again
for
right
Mr.
now?
Novak.
Sure.
Do you feel that your players are in harm?
As opposed, I mean, what Mr. DeAndre mentioned, no umpire's ever canceled the game because of safety, when you look at it that way, but I'll go back on a statement I made before. In practice, I barely hit infield to them because of the surface of the field, so yes. I
So
mean,
you do feel this is a safety issue for
It
the
is.
players?
It is. I mean, it's not a safety issue that an umpire is going to say you can't play here, but
Why
I...
take the chance?
What's that?
Why take the chance?
I agree.
So you're saying it's a safety issue for your players?
Yep.
I have a question. So is there a way to repair that, to Band-Aid it for this coming season, and then we could put that whole, say, $75,000 into, and we're talking both fields?
I mean, if they were to this year, I mean, if we were to say next year you're going to resod it because it's too late to resod it now, if that's the case, and I don't know if that's the case, we could go with that second method with the dirt and go with the field saver method that would, what they do is I spoke to Kaiser, and what they do is they take a soil analysis of the infield. They take some dirt out, they bring it to a lab, and they determine how much clay needs to be mixed in with it. And they rototill the clay into that dirt. So that would solve the problem with the dirt, and that would make it definitely more playable for this upcoming season.
And they've done that before, right, Mike?
What's that?
They've done that before.
Not to
Like-
our field, but they've done it.
Never to our field?
Never to
I
our
thought
field, no.
They had done it like,
No, not this stuff. They mixed in the dirt that's in there now. But that dirt never solved the beach sand mixture. They haven't rototilled the right mixture in.
We've
This
never
would
gone
address.
to level 2.
Yeah, this
We've
would.
always stayed at level 1.
Yeah.
There, it's never gone to.
This is the next
to
step
level
up.
2,
Yeah.
and then there's Duraclay, which is a level 3.
Yeah.
So
What
we can
this
go to a
would do-
level 2 now for this year in preparation for the full project after that? Or is one going to be wasted on the other?
Yes.
I mean, that would definitely help the playability now.
I mean, I don't know what the cost is for level 2, but I have to assume
If I
it's less than
remember
the whole
level
project.
2 was
11.5,
11.5 to 15 for that type of dirt.
11,500.
Clay or whatever you want to call it.
What do you do, mix it in, Mike, into the
Yeah,
actual
they take the dirt first, and then they determine how much clay needs to be
They
added.
only go with the skin, though, they're not
Yes,
talking,
they do.
they're not talking.
We're not talking grass.
Let me just suggest this from the board members since we have fiduciary responsibility. I want to know this from the board's perspective. If we're going to do something, you know, let's do it right.
Right.
Let's get the sprinkler system in, and if you do it to the baseball field, we ought to do it to the softball field. You know, we perpetually talk about things, and sometimes we're in an effective debating society here. I want to know what's the cost of this thing. Let's put it in the budget. This is a baseball town. Let's get the damn thing done. We talk about it, we talk about it, we talk about it. It's been 5 years since Dr. Alfano and I walked on the field, and we still have the same problem. If the rationale is that, well, you know, budgets aren't going to get passed, then hell, let's not do anything.
Just keep stalling.
You know, let's just do the damn thing. Figure out what the money is. Let's put it in the budget. Finance committee, put it in the budget,
That was part of the meeting last week.
and bring it out there. And whatever we can do now
Now that we have more
to
information.
make it safe for this upcoming season. And
Great.
coach, we're going to do
I
all
don't
this
make that
stuff,
decision.
and then we're going to go to a championship.
That'd be fantastic.
Stand.
They drag it, and they never roll it though.
Yeah, we know the Yankees.
A long time. They used to have the roller from the town. They don't have their own roller here now.
It's an $8 million budget. Fix the field.
Mrs. Backman, can I add my 2 cents, please?
Makes it like a rock.
I don't know how many board members have been to a baseball game here at the varsity field. I've attended several of them over here, and I know the conditions. I've talked to the coach, I've talked to the parents. I've seen the players. You mentioned Matt Rivera trying to steal second base. He digs a hole at least 9 inches deep. Am I right, Matt? To try to get footing to run. Okay, it's a joke. It really is. I've called the field a sand lot. That's basically what it is. It's beach sand. It's if you call it playable, I don't call it playable, and I think our team doesn't call it playable. The grass, it's disgraceful, point blank. These students, these players, go to another school and they see a field that's, it's almost like being in the ballpark in Somerset over here. I can't think of the name. TD Bank. You know, going there, or, you know, if you go down to South Amboy.
We have pictures.
These are some pictures of other fields that you pass around.
Mr. Rashad, are you suggesting that we make this repair?
Yes, I've been wholeheartedly for this, to have this field done so these students can play baseball come the 2012 March.
Well, the buck stops here, guys.
Ask the students if they want to play on that field the way it is. They're here, the team is here.
So you're suggesting that we just, that we don't put a, do
We
minor
can do
work?
one field, Joe. What we can do is, you know, there's always this, you know, the boys will be favored over the girls. Let's do a 3-year project. Let's do one field this year. We can do another field the following year and another field the following year.
I don't know if that's allowed, like with all that, maybe, do you know about like all that Title IX stuff? Is that,
As long as it's planned.
I don't think it's a problem.
As long as it's planned, you know.
As long as it's on paper that we're going to do it, I don't see a problem with it.
All right, let's be a board of action. Let's do it.
Before we take action, before we take action, is there anyone else in the public that wants to speak on this baseball topic before the board takes action or does not take action?
That's right.
Terry Campbell, Cider Lane, Sayreville. I'm going to speak for a few minutes, and I do want my son Christian to speak because he's one of the players, and as you can see, we have a large number of our players. There's probably like almost all of our varsity team for next year, so you know that they're pretty adamant about doing something like this. But as a parent of a former and a current Bomber baseball player and the current baseball booster club president, I'm here really to encourage you, the Sayreville Board of Education, to reconsider the approval of the renovations for the baseball field this year. There's pictures being passed around. We went around to various fields throughout the county that we play on, and some of them are turf. I will say East Brunswick has turf, Carteret has turf, and we're not asking for you to turf our field, although we would love that, because as Coach Novak mentioned, most of their practices are done up on the turf field because it's just an easier, you know, field to play on. And I understand this was discussed and voted on last board meeting, and unfortunately I wasn't able to be here, but I was able to watch last month's board meeting. and saw the comments and things that went around. And we discussed safety a lot. And although, yeah, there were never any games canceled up there because of a safety issue. There were many games that were not the most adequate playing circumstances up there based on because it had rained or because it didn't rain, because it was dry as a bone up there and the field was just, it was terrible. The conditions were terrible. As Coach Novak also mentioned, last year during one of the home games on our field, my son Christian, who's the shortstop for the team, took a ball off of his lip, a really bad hop. We have it on video. He's lucky that nothing happened more than a cut lip, a fat lip, that he had no missing or broken teeth, which was great. But the inadequate type of infield dirt or sand, which we have up there, causes the ball to take horrible hops. Our booster club does a tremendous amount of fundraising and is able to offset a lot of the costs of the things that the Board of Ed isn't able to give us. And this unfortunately isn't one of them, although as a booster club, I can say that if we were able to pay for a portion of the renovations, we would be happy to do so. I know that came up with the whole fence situation and then we were told we couldn't pay for it, but just know that that option is out there. We're asking for you to re-examine this request because the baseball program, although it has an annual reoccurring fee that we pay for them to come out and work on our field, overall we're pretty low maintenance as far as financial. That can't be said for many sports. I know we paid over $1 million for the football field, and it's wonderful. And the football team, along with the soccer team and the field hockey teams, are able to play on a beautifully renovated turf field with new visitor bleachers for their fans to enjoy and watch the games. Our baseball teams are playing on fields that are only maintained during our field advantage because we know how to play the bad hops in the infield. That isn't really the sense of home field advantage. I don't want the solution to be, this will get fixed when somebody really gets hurt out there. These fields that we have out there are probably used the most during the year for this baseball team over any other field. Even though our season is only actually April and May, our preseason starts in March, so we need to be able to use those fields in March. And the fields are also used in June and July for American Legion Baseball. And although that's not a high school team, it's an offshoot of our high school team. So our fields, when you basically look at it, are being used from March until July sometime, and they're maintained the least out of anybody. Because actually after school ends and the Legion ball is out there, nothing is cut. And the porta potties that are out there that are our bathrooms, when we have out there to watch a game, they're taken away from us because I guess they feel that they're not a school event, so they don't need bathrooms out there. I passed around some pictures of various fields from the county that we play on. Some fields are turf, as I mentioned, and some are regular dirt and grass infields. There are 2 fields right now in those pictures that are actually currently being renovated. One is the JFK field up in Island, and the New Brunswick, which is actually the old New Brunswick field. The new New Brunswick field is the new high school, has a brand new field, but the old field, which is at the old high school or the old, I guess it's the new middle school, is being renovated, and it's beautiful of what they've done for it. So now is the time that stuff has to get done, because if we are going to redo things, this is the time of the year that it has to be done, and before the bad weather sets in. So I would think that we would want a safe place for our kids to play, and that's really all I'm asking. Thank you. And if my son can just say a few things.
Can I just ask you a question for you?
Sure.
Do you use the Cerebral Little League? Do you play for Cerebral Little League? Who maintains that? Does an outside company?
No, Kaiser Landscaping, right? I'm asking my husband. Kaiser. Yeah, Kaiser. The guy that you have doing your fields is very good. He does the Little League fields for us, and I know he does a lot of different other fields that he maintains. But
Those fields are sprinkled. That's the difference.
But and the dirt is also different dirt.
And your money from your parents' group should not go to renovate fields. It should go in scholarships.
Well, and it does. And as you know, because you've been at our banquets, we are probably one of the few booster clubs that give a scholarship to every senior on our team.
Even more.
That's wonderful. So, okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Christian Campbell. I'm a current junior here at Save High School. I've been starting shortstop since my freshman year, so I know pretty much all about our field. Just like my mom and Coach Novak says, our field is in really bad shape. Like Novak said that when a runner runs by me at second base or at first base, there creates divots. And last year during the Colonia game, as you heard, I got drilled in the lip by a ball that hopped up. And it didn't do too much damage. It busted my lip up open quite a bit, pretty much. But it could have done a lot more harm if it was in a different position. Could have knocked my teeth out. Could have even hit my nose. So I've been playing since I was like 5 years old, so I know how fields should be, and that field up there is nothing. That's probably one of the worst fields I've played on. Like I've been playing this summer on turf fields. Well, turf fields are different, but I've been playing on really nice fields. We play up at the Trenton Thunder field. I know that's a professional field, but still, our dirt should resemble that kind of dirt, not sand. It's like pretty much when you're running on our field, it's like you ever run at a beach. You can't really move. You slip, you fall. Matt knows. I know. Everyone at that table pretty much knows that our field is really not in the greatest shape and not really safe for us as a team and opponents that we play. Thank you.
Christian, is there a high school that you could, like, give us an example that we can look at? That you think would be a good field that we could afford?
Woodbridge. The new Brunswick field is really, really nice. We played there last year during a scrimmage. North Brunswick's fields, the community park fields. I just played there last weekend. Yeah, so Woodbridge, New Brunswick, and the North Brunswick fields.
Thank you. Sorry, got hurt.
It's all right.
Good evening. My name is Renee Lieberman, and I would like to tell you, 3 years ago, I was...
Excuse me, could you just speak into the microphone? I don't know that people can hear you in the back.
I was here before the board 3 years ago. My name was in the minutes to be hired as a cafeteria worker. I've been working in the cafeteria 5 years. We were told that night bus aid was hired, a paralegals was hired, and we were told there was a freeze on the cafeteria workers. Last month, 2 of my friends that have been here just 2 years were hired permanent. Now, I would like to know, why am I being discriminated? Is it my age? Is it my name? Or is it my work performance? That's all I have to say. Can you give me an answer? Why I wasn't hired?
I cannot give you an answer, no. We really can't discuss personnel issues in public.
Well, then, who do I go to?
I would suggest your supervisor,
I have been.
superintendent. You can go up the chain of command.
Well, why was my name taken off of what was supposed to be? That's what I want to know.
You're saying your name was on the agenda and
Yes,
taken
it
off?
was, 3 years ago, and then we were told there was going to be a freeze because of the budget. The budget was passed. Now, this is something that has to be addressed.
I can't speak to 3 years ago, but in this last meeting, there were no names on that were taken
There
off.
were 2 girls, actually, they're my friends, that were hired. The other girls that were supposed to be hired that night were not hired.
They only chose to hire 2 at that point.
Well, why did you choose 2?
Recommendations. That's the truth, recommendations.
Ma'am, let me just explain something, and I understand your frustration here, but from a board of education, let me say something, respectfully. We as a board,
You were here that night. when I was.
Yeah, I've been
Okay.
a board for a while. Just let me tell you, as a board member, even when it comes to hiring teachers, I don't know who these people are. We don't interview people. What we do is we get an agenda here a couple days before the meeting, and we vote on recommendations from the superintendent of schools. Recommend somebody, they're qualified, we vote. If they're not on the agenda, we don't hire them. Okay, what we do is we vote on recommendations from the superintendent. We don't determine who gets hired over who. If it's on the agenda and the superintendent has recommended it, we vote. And I'll tell you, in the 7 years that I've been here, if a name was recommended by the superintendent of schools, I voted yes. We don't look at names. I can't even tell you how many cafeteria workers we have in the district. I don't know. But I
Mrs. Lehman, most of the recommendations come through me, and I'll be honest, like Mr. McEnroe says, I, all the time, have not once not recommended somebody that Ms. Jenkins has given to me. Of the names that I've received, okay, in all due respect, your name was not on that list, okay? Now, if it was a list of 6, I only saw a list of 3. The list of 6 was not, they were not going to hire, we were not going to hire 6, we were going to only hire 2. Of the 3 people, 2 people were hired. And as I said to the other individual who asked the question, that down the road, we may hire more. And that's what I said to Ms. Jenkins.
It was told to me 3 years ago that when the freeze was off, I would be hired.
I understand what you're saying, but in all due respect, I can only hire people that are recommended to me. Okay? I don't go out and interview any of the people from the cafeteria. Basically, I get a recommendation from Mrs. Jenkins, and I put that person on. And we had 2 people that we were going to hire. Those 2 people came from Mrs. Jenkins, and they were hired. Now, if we decide that we're going to hire more people, then subsequently we'll hire more people. At this particular point right now, it's just a wait-and-see game, whether or not, like Ms. Jenkins would like to hire 6 people, but we're trying to see if we can do with the 2 that we have. If we move forward and we need 2 more, we'll hire 2 more.
You know, I would really love for you to come and see how much work is done in the cafeteria.
I'm not questioning that you ladies don't work hard. Every school that I was in, whether I was the middle school principal, whether I was in one of the elementary schools, I don't question how hard you people work and how dedicated you are. What I'm trying to tell you is, and again, this is a personnel issue that we're getting way too deep in public, but I'm telling you,
But it has to be brought up.
I'm not arguing the point.
If it's Shelley's fault,
I'm not saying it's Charlie's fault. I'm
Well, you're
saying
telling
that,
me that.
no, I didn't say that. I said that we were only hiring 2 people, that there were 6 people that she wanted to be hired, and only 3 of them got to me because we were only going to hire 2. So subsequently, we hired 2 of the 6. But I didn't see the other 3 people. And it's really, if I'm only going to hire 2 people, and in all due respect, it's the first time that I meet a lot of people. I see a lot of people when I go into the buildings. I know a lot of people in the middle school because I was there.
okay,
Mrs. Lieberman, may I ask a question?
yes.
Were you ever told that you would be getting a permanent job?
Yes, they put me in the middle school all last year to work.
And who told you that you would get a permanent job? Who's the person that told you
Well,
that?
they said that we were in line to be hired.
You're saying they, who's the person that told you?
Shelley.
Shelley
put
told you that you would become
Shelley put
permanent.
me, am I right?
I made a recommendation to the board.
Right.
A recommendation is not a guarantee. A recommendation, she's recommending you as a worker, that you're a good worker. It's not a guarantee of a hire. There's a big difference. I recommended people, we all, we all do that.
But
Well,
so
we have
what was said here 3 years ago was a lie. Because we were on the list to be hired, and then they said when
And then
the
they put a
freeze.
freeze on it.
Yes.
That happened throughout the whole state.
Right.
Right.
So we should have been hired before the ones that have only 2 years in.
But again, it's a personal recommendation.
It's a personal
Right, it's a recommendation.
Okay.
That's it.
Is there anyone else in the public that wishes to speak? Would the board like to entertain, to go back to the baseball field, a reconsideration doing the fields for this current budget year? So,
I think my first question is it feasible, based upon the timelines, that we could get, can we lay grass in the fall? Because I know we gotta go through a bid process, specs, is that doable?
I can't tell you definitely yes or no. I don't know that answer right now.
Because I'm assuming this would need to be bid, is it over the bid threshold?
Yes, it's over the, well, it all depends on what amount of work that the board is
what
wishing
is the
to
bid
do.
threshold?
$36,000, that's the
This
bid
was
threshold.
45, you said.
If everything's costing 45, that means you're required to go out to bid. If you're not looking to do 45,000 and it's going to be under 36, then I'm required to go out to 3 quotes.
Okay, but the one quote we have is approximately 45.
Yes, but again, as I said last week, it was a rough number until we put everything exactly as to how we wish to have it. Then a real specification and quotes will come in based upon that as to what amount of work. And that's why the laundry list was prepared, because that's how the gentleman who prepared it received it. What if? He got a lot of what ifs, we want to do this. And that's how we got the quotes.
And if we do vote to do the whole thing for the baseball field, what about the softball fields? Because I'm kind of thinking in 2 weeks we're going to be seeing those softball parents and field players.
Yes.
And it's not in the budget, and that's my biggest concern. So I want to see it repaired, I want to see it fixed, but I think if we could just Band-Aid it for now and do the whole project, put the whole project in for next year, I think it makes more sense fiduciary and,
Are the kids getting hurt on the softball fields too?
I don't know.
That would be a consideration.
All right, let's try this. I'm
Mr.
going to
Novak,
make a
I have one
motion.
more question. Mr. Novak, just to ask you a question, because this Band-Aid, I'm not ever a big fan of Band-Aids.
Yes.
If we were to Band-Aid, what type of money is a Band-Aid?
I mean, just
Like,
from
you know,
looking
what
at
would
the
the
quote,
Band-Aid be?
if sod couldn't be laid this quick for this upcoming season, my recommendation would be to go to that, when you look at the dirt, the field saver part of
Which is the
it.
11,500.
Yes.
So that's a large Band-Aid. Okay.
So, that would be if we couldn't lay sod, of course, and put the sprinkler system, which it,
And then would that be $11,000 off of the higher price for the following year?
I don't know. I believe that once they redo the sod and the sprinkler system, they're gonna regrade the whole field, and it's probably gonna be a lot of that dirt, maybe, I don't know, they're probably gonna have to be added, because what they do is they're gonna eliminate some of the outfield grass and regrade it all so it drains properly. So I think we're gonna lose a lot of that, I would believe, I'm not sure. But that's something you have to ask.
There's a chance, and again, and I think that's what Mr. Novak was referring to, allow us to do a little more research, because you may be spending $12,000 to remove $12,000 next year and redo it.
Right, and that's why I was asking.
We're trying to push this real quick with not having really any clear indication of what we're trying to do first of all and how much we want. I mean, I would agree that if the board is going to commit to doing it, let's try and do it right.
Right, I agree.
Let's get the specs, let's build it, let's put a sprinkler system in, make sure we get a maintenance program as part of the bid, so that whoever puts this in as part of the requirements are to come back and maintain it on a yearly basis and do the things to make sure that we maintain and do it correctly.
For this season?
Let's take the time. Excuse
Well,
me?
just in
Are you saying, okay, just in
In
general?
general, you're saying?
Yeah.
No matter
Right,
when
so-
we do it.
No
right?
matter
So-
when it
Agreed.
is, let's just do it
Oh,
the
sure.
right way
Right.
instead of, let's make a motion to use field saver, and then we go ahead and we do it, and then next year we go out to bid, and the gentleman comes back and says, well, I have to remove all that field saver, because I have to run sprinkler systems, I have to redo the outfield, I have to redo the infield. Now, you've thrown away $12,000 to fix the problem immediately. Let's take the time, allow us to work with Mr. Novak, Mrs. DeLucia, come back, put it in the budget, and have everything clearly marked so that the board can see the upfront cost and the residual cost. Again, there are residual costs that you're going to have to bear if you're going to do this, the maintenance and things of that nature.
Can you have that proposal for us for our November meeting? Not the first meeting, the 2nd, because then the board could make a decision whether it's something we want to attempt for this spring or for next
But if
summer.
you wait till November, then you can't probably put the sod in.
I don't think we can sod now anyway.
Are you
It's-
a professional, Kevin?
This is not someone's backyard here.
But again, Kevin, that's why, allow us to sit and talk this through.
I agree.
Allow us to see what we can do. There's a chance you might sod in April or March and you'll be playing. We'll leave that to Mr. Novak. If he wants to take that chance and go back to the board. Again, you get a bad March and we get snow into April, you're not laying sod. And then they're not gonna have a baseball season.
Right, but we're not gonna be able, no matter what you do, we can't lay sod in March. to
And that's
play
what I'm saying,
baseball. It's not gonna
allow the
happen,
time to
so.
prepare it and go and have the board look at a complete package. And instead of let's trying to rush and say, get a proposal together, and all it is a proposal, not knowing exactly where it is. Allow us the time to get all the information needed and look at it in an intelligent, concise way, instead of, let me think about this, let me look at that, let me put this together. Allow us the time to bring this in.
When can we have that proposal?
I don't have that answer because last week I was told we're not doing
I
it,
understand.
so I abandoned it. And this week, there's a chance I'm doing it. We met last week to prepare for next year's budget. That was the goal after last meeting's direction. So Mr. Kotarich and I said, let's sit with these folks, talk to them, prepare so that we can give the board something. That was my direction. That's the direction I took 2 weeks ago. If you want me to go a different way, well, let me know that. I don't know which way to go anymore.
Well, I think also last meeting, we also were not fully aware that it was a safety issue.
And again, and I caution everyone, when you use that word safety, please be careful.
Well,
Someone
the
picks
coach
that
is
up.
telling us it's a safety issue. I gotta
And
go
if-
on the divers on the
The
field.
coach is telling you it's not.
And
good,
again,
but
folks,
saying you don't know if
be
it's a
careful
safety
when
issue.
you use those
It's not your
types of
choice,
words.
it's our
Dr.
choice.
Alfano, could you give us an estimate as to when you guys can come back to us?
I'm gonna work with them, Kevin. I gotta work with the outside people. I don't have those answers. We waited for Kaiser for 3 weeks to give us those numbers, and he were at that. I'll
Okay,
work with
all right.
JK and
There's
Mike Novak.
no value in sending you off to come back for anything in the next meeting, because at the last meeting, we took a poll and the board wasn't interested for this year. The board wanted to do it for next year. So the only way to settle this is we're going to re-poll the board in case anyone has changed their mind. And if no one has changed their mind, it has to go into next year's budget. Okay? Just, because we're just talking ourselves in circles.
Can we,
Let's
are
just,
we polling to see
We're
if
polling
we're
to
gonna
do-
try and do it this year?
yes, we're gonna go through the same motions we did last week and poll the board and see if we want to do it for the 2011-12 season.
Thank you.
Which is this season, correct? Okay, so the best thing to do is, I'm just gonna go, well, might as well just start with the no. Mr. Pinto,
I'm changing my vote based on safety issues.
okay. Mr. Syak,
Look, I can't give you a real answer to that because I don't know how much it's going to cost.
that's an abstention. Mr.
Beautiful.
McEnon, okay. I'm going down in order.
If we can fix it this year, fix it this year. If we got the money, that's the issue.
Right.
Is that an abstention?
I don't understand what you're asking.
The question is, do you want to pursue the baseball field for the 2011-12? You know, we had this conversation last week, and it's the same issue we had last week.
If, do I want to pursue it?
For the
Do I want it?
11-12 school
Okay,
year.
if you're asking me if I want the business administrator to go out there and get quotes and get information to see if we can do it this year, my answer is yes.
And I would go a yes with that as well.
Okay? That's-
Mr. Stroud? I'm going down in order.
Reverse
I'm doing it in
alphabetical order
order.
by gender.
No, I'm doing it in order of the vote.
Gotcha. I don't know. She's going.
I would like to see a video, check it out, and also find out that $12,000 that it may cost for us to repair it now, if we can, if that dirt can be used for the following year.
Is that a yes or no?
I said I would like to see a video follow.
That was a yes or a no. Okay.
Yes.
Ms. Bruno Rakusa, I want to clarify, this is to look into it. We're not doing anything.
But there's
because we don't
really
know
no
if we
value
can
in looking
afford
into it now if
Right.
we're not serious about doing it. And last week, It was tight, it was 5-4, and people didn't want to pursue it for this year. I just want to know if you want to pursue it for the 11-12 budget year.
We're not committing money, we want to pursue it. That's what she's saying.
For this year. We're not committing money, is that correct, Phyllis? We're not
Well, you
committing-
will commit money if it gets
Eventually,
fixed.
but not at this point.
Not today.
We don't have a dollar amount to commit, but I don't see any value in the business administrator to bring a dollar amount to the table now if we're not going to do it till next year's budget. If that's the case, it'll be pushed off to the finance committee.
But if
There's
it-
no value in it.
But if he brings $100,000 in, which
All
I
right,
know is
okay,
over.
all right, let's,
but if he
no,
brings
I'm going to
25,
rephrase the question so
Can I
that
vote
we don't, no,
Can I
wait,
vote
wait.
for her?
No.
I guess it,
No, we're going to rephrase the
it'll
question
be
because
safe
it's
to
getting
assume that the
complicated.
cost will be between $36,000 and $50,000.
Right, we're going to put an estimate out of approximately $45,000.
For the boys' baseball.
For the boys varsity baseball field. Is that a fair price? You said that's what they talked. At a price of $45,000, are you willing to consider doing it in the 2011-12 calendar year? Mrs. Stroud?
Okay, I'm going to say no.
No. Okay.
I'm concerned that we put off safety issues at the middle school, that we put off repairing their patio, and that we're going, I know the fields need to be done. The fields absolutely need to be done. When I go to other schools, our school fields are a mess compared to everybody else. Completely agree with you. But I think that if we're going to commit money to safety issues, that's an issue that needs to be addressed as well. Since we already said no to that, then I have to say no to this as well.
We didn't say no to the patio. We
We
voted
did,
yes
we
last
put it
week.
off to next year.
But
And
we
not
approved it
permanently,
last
they
budget.
to put it off.
They fixed it.
Has that patio been
They
redone at the
patched
school?
it. They patched it for this.
There's no more holes.
We're actually going out.
That-
You hired an architect.
Yes, we hired an architect at the last meeting for the patio. Okay.
That's the problem, we're bouncing over.
Just,
That's the,
at the, just for you two, since, at the $45,000 price, are you two okay? Want to change your opinion?
It's an $80 million budget.
All right, okay.
Yes.
Okay, now, before we go on to the members who voted or straw polled for, I just want to make sure that the yes people from last week did not change their minds, so we have
I'm
five.
still a yes.
Mr. Balco,
Still yes.
Mr. Bashada,
Fix it.
Mandate it, and I want it to be presentable and not embarrassing.
So that's
And I
a
want
yes.
the kids to be safe. Yes.
I'll work with
and I
Mr.
will not change my
I will
vote from
work
last
with
week
Mr.
either.
Kotanich and Mr. Novak to try and get a proposal back to the board as soon as possible, but understand if it's over the $36,000, it's going to require the bidding process,
Correct.
which changes timelines drastically.
So if you can, Mr. Novak, if you can work on this proposal, depending on the price, depends how fast we can get it done. So I'll expect you to work, our next meeting is the 20th. If we can have anything then, it'll be up for a vote. So right
Well,
now,
again-
nothing's binding.
Mrs. Backo, it will not be up for a vote.
Right, well, it'll
because-
be up for a vote to go out to bid, if it needs to be bid.
Yes,
Okay,
that's the
so
only
it
thing.
will be
that
on the
we
agenda for a
vote.
vote, if it needs to be bid at the 20th.
I don't want anyone to think they'll
That's correct.
come
I
into
know.
November's meeting looking for approval to fix the fields.
But if it has to go out to bid, we can vote at the next meeting.
At this point, what do you need from me? Research? to speak to
Just,
this meeting?
well, we have this proposal that's
Be in touch.
option A, B, C, D, whatever.
Okay.
Work on it.
Thank you, like, for all you do.
We got
Thank
this
you,
last
Mr.
week, last
Campbell.
meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Now, question number 2, and I might as well bring this up now before we go through this November meeting. What about the softball field?
I think,
Knew that comment was coming.
my suggestion would be to have the finance committee get a price and put it in for next year's budget so that we're fair. That's my suggestion.
Is that as bad as the baseball? field?
Considering, yeah,
So that
I
we're
mean,
fair.
The softball field is as bad as the baseball field?
Are we putting this in for next year's budget? or just-
well, no, my recommendation would be to get handed off to the finance committee to move on to the softball field for next year's budget. Because we, I mean, unless anybody's objections will. Okay, does anybody else wish to speak on anything, even the baseball field, if anybody? Anybody else from the public have anything else to speak? Anybody else on the board?
I move we adjourn.
So moved. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?